Hello and bonjour, this is Sarah Bokhari and you're watching Power Dilemmas here at TAG TV. International Women's Day celebrates the social, economic, cultural and political achievements of women. Run annually on March 8, the day also marks a call to action for accelerating gender parity. Now more than ever, there is a strong call to action to press forward and progress gender parity. Hashtag Press for Progress campaign is the theme for motivating and uniting friends, colleagues and whole communities to think, act and be gender inclusive. It was only very recent that women in the West were afforded the right to suffrage. Ratified on August 18, 1920, the 19th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution granted American women the right to vote, a right known as woman suffrage. At the time the U.S. was founded, its female citizens did not share all of the same rights as men, including the right to vote. And then we still are a long way to create gender parity in pay. We have a 29% gender wage gap in the province of Ontario. Despite other attempts at trying to solve that issue, we are not making the progress that we need to make sure that women are an equal partner, are empowered in the economy, are earning the same as men. I have with me Heather Zordel, who is a lawyer and a partner at Gardner Roberts LLP, to talk about International Women's Day and a few issues, or maybe many issues, still faced by for achieving gender equality. Hello, Heather. How are you?
Good. It's a great day today.
It is
International Women's Day.
That's awesome. Welcome to my show. So, Heather, women in the West only received their right to vote recently. Why are we celebrating International Women's Day?
Well, I think we're celebrating because we've come a long way, and we also have a long way to go. So it's two parts. Let's look at what we've done, and you've mentioned a number of the successes, and then we also can individually and as groups think about the things that we want to do going forward, what we want to see.
Mm-hmm.
I have a couple points of things in that area.
Right.
So one that's coming to mind to me as somebody in the capital markets and business area is women on boards. And I'm sure a lot of your viewers are familiar with that, but particularly those that are in the public markets. Women on boards of directors of publicly traded companies is the focus that we're working on these days in the business world. The Ontario Securities Commission has put in comply or explain public disclosure rules, and those encourage companies to add women to their boards. And we have not put in a quota requirement, and I'd like to say I'm fine with that. But what's interesting and what's happening right now is that the capital markets are ramping up pressure in this area privately. Individual shareholders and groups of shareholders are deciding not to support votes for board members where they don't see women being adequately put forward for board positions. So, this year we had about 14% on public companies. We'd like to see that grow, and I think because of this effort that's being done at the grassroots shareholder level, we're going to see some good progress on that in the next 2 years.
That's good to hear that we are going to see some progress. So moving forward, Heather, women in the West only received their right to vote recently and participate in politics. In your opinion, how far have we marched in our struggle to have women in politics?
We've come a long way, and but we can't be complacent on this. And what it shows us is that history shows us it's not a one-way march. We have to continually value and work for parity across the world in politics as in other areas, or we risk falling back and actually losing rights. So there are always going to be people in the world who want to take away rights from other people that have them. So we keep moving forward. This year we've got in Ontario, we've got potentially 3 women running for premier and from different parties, and so it looks like we will potentially have a woman premier again after this year's election, and I think that's progress, something I'm looking forward to.
Yeah, there is going to be a good big battle in June 7th. We might have 3 women running, actually.
I'm hoping for that.
Yes. Okay. So what is your take on parity in pay / wages in Ontario, and how can we close that gender wage gap, Heather?
Yeah, it's a challenge, and people are coming at it from different directions. I've seen some efforts and discussion about how government organizations are going to try and reevaluate and try to come up with ways to give points to various things for women who are in some areas that they feel are perhaps a little bit undervalued. But more broadly, I think as far as making a really jump in that pay parity, I think we need to close the gap by encouraging women to go into the fields and types of work that pay better.
Mm-hmm.
And rather than asking for more money in a particular job where fundamentally market forces should drive pay, there are some higher paying jobs that are, for example, not conducive to schedules work, schedules that women need if you're doing some sort of caregiving work in other parts of your lives. So we can also encourage employers to structure things like construction jobs and things like that to assist and make it easier. And I think that's going to happen in the next number of years anyway, as the workforce is becoming tighter.
Mm-hmm.
One thing I can say is that I'm a bencher of the Law Society of Ontario, so we regulate lawyers.
Mm-hmm.
And there's an interesting distinction there. When I say go into jobs that are higher paying, sometimes you got to be careful that you're looking at actual pay versus people's long-term perceptions of pay. And so, for example, a lot of people think that becoming a lawyer is a way to get a high-paying job. And in fact, now we have a lot of women becoming lawyers. However, I have to tell you that there is reputable statistical analysis that shows that we are currently licensing in Ontario 1.6 new lawyers per year for every 1.0 jobs. That means we've got excessive supply, and that reduces average pay. So if you're a student or even a person thinking about going back to school, for example, I wouldn't recommend taking on student debt for that job.
Okay.
On the other hand, we have other jobs where women have not been traditionally as eager to go into them. And one I'll mention right now is aviation, pilots. There's a huge demand for pilots right now. It's growing. And humorously on that one, again, it was a job that wasn't considered to be as easy for women to do because sometimes you're away overnight and things like that. But it's an area where there's a big demand, and one of the companies I'm familiar with, Porter Airlines, is trying very hard to hire women pilots and help work with their schedules. So there's opportunities.
Okay, Heather. Okay, so now you've talked, like you've elaborated on how can we close the gender wage gap. In your opinion, what is the meaning of gender wage gap? Our viewers would like to know. What is the meaning of gender wage gap? What is this gap?
Well, there's two sorts of interpretations of it. The one is just on an average, and women making less than men generally, and then and part of that is, as I say, driven by the jobs that people tend to go into. And the other more problematic place is where there's a perception that a guy and a woman might have the same job, but a man would be paid more for it than the woman. And that, if you go back 30 years and longer, that was definitely the case. Not quite as much anymore.
Okay. So, Heather, you are a working woman. Give our viewers some tips to juggle work and home life for all women out there.
Generally, my approach to life is just don't stop moving. And one of the things we notice with women is that they don't, and we're generally healthier and more productive because of that. So, is there a balance in work and home life? Sometimes it doesn't seem like it, but we get a lot done, and we keep families going, and we keep work going, and we seem to be able to juggle that quite well. in this context, though, one of the things that we're looking at now is that our life expectations are lengthening. And so if you're concerned about how we're going to keep going and pay for our retirement, I'd suggest that people encourage or continue to have lifelong learning and not be afraid to change jobs or volunteer activities or hobbies, because you need to be interested in what you're doing in order to enjoy both work and home life. And so you have to sort of be willing to make changes and try different things.
Okay. A very happy International Women's Day to you, Heather. Wonderful having you.
Thank you very much, Sarah.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Okay, with this, we're going to take a short break, and we're going to talk about the PC leadership race as we come back. Stay tuned.
If you need to protect your family or business with life and health insurance, save for your retirement and children's education, or need mortgage advice, we can help. To set up your complimentary meeting, call Zahid Sayed at 905-624-0008 or visit urujfinancial.com.
PABS Promo has become the largest suppliers of promotional products in Canada. If you're looking to get your business to the next level, then look no further and call 416-710-6777 or visit pabspromo.com. Products we provide with your logo, teardrop flags, tents and banners, t-shirts and golf shirts with logo, pens, air fresheners and keychains.
Welcome to Power Dilemmas here with Sarah Bokhari at TAG TV. In other news, the Progressive Conservative leadership race is in its full swing. More than 40,000 members have voted, but what about the rest? Leadership candidate Doug Ford does not seem happy with the deadlines of voting. There are over 200,000 members. The party belongs to the members and they must be given an opportunity to cast a vote, Mr. Ford said in his email to the party members. Hundreds of members have not received their verification packages. Doug Ford has urged the party to extend voting. A leadership candidate, Carolyn Mulrooney, and a leadership candidate, Tanya Granick-Allen, agreed except leadership candidate Christine Elliott. Mr. Ford is speaking against the party's executive. 75% of the members are unable to register to vote, he held. According to a poll, Progressive Conservative Party will be stronger if candidate Christine Elliott or Carolyn Mulrooney would be voted in as leader. The deadline to vote is the 9th of March on Friday. We are very lucky to have with us Mr. Jamie Allerton, who is a principal with Conaptus. Welcome to my show, Jamie.
Thanks for having me, Sarah.
Okay, so Jamie, why do you think that the party is not extending the deadline to vote?
So we are obviously going through an extraordinary period in Ontario politics. It's unprecedented in the rush nature of this leadership race. And I think we had to kind of, at the start, really need to give our hats off to Hartley Lefton as chair of LEOC and the other volunteers who have been working in a neutral capacity to make sure that this process is run as smoothly as possible. There obviously have been some issues in terms of the delivery of the voter identification pin and therefore the ability for members to register, but the overwhelming majority of those have been delivered. And I think the Leadership Election Organizing Committee has shown themselves to be responsive to the membership by extending registration as long as possible now into this evening on Thursday, and that'll start on Wednesday, and then we'll transit that into voters being able to vote until midday on Friday with the announcement on Saturday. So if you look at the numbers in terms of those who have already voted, there are already more people who have voted in this leadership race than have voted in 2004 that elected John Tory as leader, in 2009 that elected Tim Hudak as leader, or in 2014 that elected Patrick Brown as leader. And I think the party's doing what they can in the unique and challenging circumstances to make sure that all members get that right to vote.
So how many voters have voted? You're drawing comparisons that it's the most number of voters ever if you compare to the historical voters number. So how many voters have voted, Jamie?
The last number I saw was upwards of 40,000 have already cast their ballot.
Okay.
And that number is expected to continue to grow. And I think it was 20 or 30,000 more have already registered to vote, but have yet to cast their ballot. So they've got their verifications in. They've registered to vote, but they've not yet ranked their ballot. So that'll be continuing right up until midday Friday. So
Doug Ford, the leadership candidate, is urging the party to extend the date of voting or registration. Do you think it's democratic that most of the members cannot vote in this leadership race?
I would challenge the premise of your question, Sarah. I don't think that's a true statement. Most members have been able to vote in this process, and in responding to the delays with the mail-out of the voter identification pins through Canada Post, the party extended the registration period multiple times to make sure that most had the chance to do so, and that most who have had issues are getting the support they need from Party HQ to be able to take part in that process. All four leadership candidates, when they signed up and entered this race, knew what the rules were, knew what the process was, and I think the party is within its right to be reinforcing the rules that have been set out at the outset of this leadership race.
A lot of people are also worried that they couldn't get the package in time to register to vote. What is your take on that, Jamie?
Yeah, so there are definitely issues in terms of the voter package with the voter identification pin arriving on time. They had some delivery issues with the vendor in Canada Post, and so there was delays on that, which is why we have seen the party extend the registration period multiple times to give people the chance to vote. The LEOC is reporting that the vast majority of members have indeed received that package, and they are working with those who speak out who haven't had that opportunity to find a resolution to make sure that members have their democratic voice heard in this process. But to totally change the system in the 11th hour is just, I don't think, feasible for the party to, on the drop of a hat, organize ballots, voting processes, officials in all ridings across the province to administer that. And I think people are also kind of forgetting. Like when I cast my ballot earlier this week, I did so from the comfort of my kitchen table. If you live in more rural parts of the province, in the past you would maybe have to drive 20, 30, 40 minutes to the closest community center to be able to cast your ballot. Whereas now you can do it from the comfort of your own home. So there's definitely some advantages to this. But of course, with any kind of change, there are going to be some hiccups. And I think the party's doing the best they can in the circumstances to make sure members' democratic voices are heard.
Okay, Jamie. So every poll is saying that it's a fight between Doug Ford and Christine Elliott. What is your take on it?
Yeah, I think it's the two campaigns have definitely demonstrated that they have the most momentum behind them. As with number 1 and 2, I think it's you'd be speculating as to say who's first, who's second at this point. And then, of course, let's not forget Caroline Mulroney has got the support of a lot of former Harper cabinet ministers and a lot of long-time party activists. And Tanya Granick-Adeline ran a nonprofit organization, an activist group, on parental choice in the education system that touts just under 100,000 people as supporters of that organization. So both of them have wells of a strong support, and we'll ultimately find out Saturday as to who is victorious.
Okay, so connected to Doug Ford's status, a lot of people are questioning why did he open the abortion debate at this point in time?
I think that's going to have to be a question for Doug Ford. I think when conservatives are successful, it's when conservatives are united as the entire conservative family and focusing on issues that unite us, not issues that divide us. Even if you look at Prime Minister Stephen Harper, former Premier Brad Wall, and even current Alberta United Conservative Party leader Jason Kenney, all have said as a part of their strategy is that regardless of what their personal beliefs are on the matter, they are not going to reopen the issue, and that is settled. And I think this is somewhat of a desperate play by Doug Ford in the late stages of the campaign to try and generate voter support, and he ultimately has to be held to account and answer for those questions, and that's something you should put to him.
Okay, so Jamie, you said you have voted already?
Yes, I did vote earlier this week.
So you want to tell us who did you vote? only if you want.
It is a secret, secure online ballot, and I will leave it at that, Sarah.
Of course, of course. So we are all, and you're excited to see the results on Saturday, this coming Saturday, 10th of March?
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the things that's been unique about this leadership process is to see how broadly the Conservative family from across the political spectrum in the Progressive Conservative Party have come together to get involved in this process. And with being only a few months away from the general election that'll take place on June 7th, I think regardless of who is elected as leader, the engagement of grassroots members across this party and the numbers that we've seen throughout this leadership process bodes well for engagement as they now shift beyond March 10 after the leader's elected into taking the Ontario Progressive Conservative Party message and what the finalized platform will be to voters to bring the change that I think the province is looking for. Because let's not forget, in all that we're doing right now and all that we've been talking about the Ontario Progressive Conservative Party, Kathleen Wynne is still the most unpopular premier in all of Canada, and there's a real appetite for change out there. So I think the leader who is elected on March 10, announced on Saturday, is going to have the real potential of momentum behind their sails and has benefited from the spotlight of this race in a way that opposition parties would typically struggle to attract attention this close to a general election.
One last question. In your opinion, who is the best uniting force in this leadership race who's going to get everyone under the big blue tent?
I think Christine Elliott from day one on this has been fairly clear in her messaging that she is looking to unite the party going forward and has avoided some of the more divisive issues. But there are also very real concerns that Doug Ford addresses when he talks about cleaning up the party and giving more empowerment to grassroots members and making sure that the Ontario government is more reflective of the struggles of the Ontarians and less of what the partisan Liberals are looking to hoist onto the province. So I think there's definitely real choices for members to make, and that's why we're going through this process, and that's why members are getting their right to vote for that new leader.
Okay, so I believe Kathleen Wynne should be scared now after June 7 election results?
Indeed, I think Kathleen Wynne's days as premier are numbered. This government seems tired and out of fresh ideas. They continue to increase the debt on the provinces while hydro bills continue to climb. And I think voters have, after 15 years of Liberal government, have had enough and are looking for an alternative. And I think the Ontario PC Party will be best positioned to provide that alternative. And it's my hope form government after the June 7 election.
Okay, Jamie, thank you very much for your time today. Again, it will be important to know that according to a poll, PC Party will be stronger if Christine Elliott or Carolyn Mulroney would be voted in as leader. The deadline to vote is the 9th of March, this Friday. We have on a line with me Mr. Ari Laskin, who is a consultant with the Capitol Hill Group. Welcome to my show, Ari.
Thank you for having me, Sarah.
Okay, so Ari, why do you think the party is not extending the deadline to vote? Because we are hearing a lot of things from a leadership candidate, Mr. Doug Ford.
Well, I think the party had set out some very specific guidelines to go about the construction of this leadership race. I think in speaking with members of the party executive and my peers and other supporters of the PC party, everybody's sort of looking at this as being sure this is not a perfect system, not even close to being a perfect system, but this is really the best system that we have at this point. So I think that you're going to be running into issues with this no matter what the system that we had, whether we had paper ballots or not. People are still going to be put at a disadvantage if they couldn't get to the polling station, if the weather was poor up in the north especially. So I don't think that there's any perfect system out there. I do think that the party and the party executive are making the best out of the situation that they currently have. I'm again going to repeat the allegations by Mr. Doug Ford, because he's saying that it is not democratic that members cannot vote in this leadership race. Well, I think that Mr. Ford is entitled to his opinions and he's entitled to his views on this. I think that the question of democratic versus non-democratic is very It's definitely an issue, and on the surface it appears that way, but I think when you look at it a little bit deeper, members have had an opportunity to speak with the candidates. They've had an opportunity to register to vote. The sooner they were able to register, or the sooner they were able to purchase their membership to ensure that they're in good standing, the better off they were to confirm that they were on the list or not. Members also have the opportunity to speak with the campaigns prior to the membership cutoff and ensure that they were on the list. So while I'm not putting this on the members at all, I do think that we need to look at this and take a step back and say, and maybe stop throwing across allegations of this is an undemocratic process or I'm going to challenge it no matter what.
So how many voters have voted so far?
To be honest, you'll have to speak with the leadership executive committee to find out that answer. I don't know. From what I do know, and what's been reported late last night, is that there was about 70,000 members that had registered. Of those 70,000, they were looking at 44,000 had voted. That's a pretty strong percentage, I think, all things considered. It would be nice, though, if they were able to ensure that all the members that were valid members, who were in good standing prior to the 16th of February, that cutoff, were able to find a way to get the ballots out to them. And I know that they're looking at all the different options right now, and that's something that I'm sure that they will be coming out with more information, if there is any more information to be told.
Okay, so Ari, every poll is saying that it's a fight between Doug Ford and Christine Elliott. What is your take on it?
Well, I think no matter who wins this race, we're looking at a very strong and motivated PC party going into the general election in June. I think that if you're looking at the leadership in a bubble, then yeah, this is a race between Christine Elliott and Doug Ford. I think that it's really, if you look at the latest Angus Reid poll that came out, I believe it was earlier today, it showed that with Christine Elliott in office as the leader of the official opposition, we would be looking at a 26-point bump, which means that's well into a strong majority territory for the province of Ontario, and that leads us to believe that we will be seeing a change in government, and we'll be seeing a big change in government. People of Ontario are sick and tired of 15+ years of Liberal waste and mismanagement, and they're sick and tired of hearing the same lip service that the Wynne government is paying to them right now. I think it's pretty clear with a poll that came out a few days ago, 81% of this province wants to see a change at Queen's Park. I think that we're looking at a very good position for the PC Party of Ontario going into the June election. I think we're in a much stronger position if we're being led by Christine Elliott, but I think regardless, we're in good standing.
So do you think Kathleen Wynne should be scared now that the Progressive Conservative Party is going to take it by storm on June the 7th?
I think the Premier needs to start really looking at what her backup plan is going to be.
So do you think, so who do you think is the best candidate to unite all kinds of progressive conservatives under that big blue tent?
Well, I think I'm going to still say Christine Elliott, I think, is going to be the best candidate for that. Christine has taken
Why
people,
though? Yeah.
Well, if you look at the makeup of Christine's campaign team, it is a group of people that come from all swaths of conservative politics right across Ontario. You have people that we just finished a federal leadership race. A lot of the same people that were involved in the federal leadership race, we just couldn't get enough of it, so we went back to do a provincial leadership race as well. And these are people that are from all of the different camps out there. So we have people from the Maxime Bernier camp who's helping out Christine. You have people from the Aaron O'Toole camp, from the Kevin O'Leary camp, from the Michael Chong camp. So everybody is really united in this, and they all see this, that Christine is the one who's able to sort of take the mature approach and take the steady hand. We need an adult to lead us who's going to be clear on their position, and we also need somebody who is going to respect the views of all the members.
But why not Caroline Mulroney? She's a daughter of Prime Minister Brian Mulroney.
Well, I think Ms. Mulroney has a very bright future ahead of her. I just don't think that she's ready to be doing something like this now. leading the largest province in the country and arguably where the center of wealth is for the country, you need to have a very strong understanding of how Queen's Park works. And to just be relying on people to tell you how Queen's Park works, I just don't think that's enough. I think you need to kind of experience it for yourself and understand how to go about making things happen there. Because it's not the fanfare and it's not the performance that you see on Question Period. There's a lot more that happens in that building than just questions and answers. Right now they're debating a bill on, are they going to make a month or establish a poet commission in Ontario to ensure that there's greater emphasis on the arts and poetry and literature. So this isn't happening in Question Period. This is a private members debate that's going forward right now. I don't think that you're able to just walk into it and think that everything is going to go your way. This is not a time to sort of hope for the best.
So there are rumors that Christine Elliott's campaign has joined hands and there are back deals with the previous leader of the Progressive Conservative Party?
It would be news to me. I know that Christine has been very vocal about welcoming anybody who wants to join her campaign team, has been very vocal about encouraging anybody that wants to join the Progressive Conservative Party of Ontario. I don't think that she's hidden that fact that she wants to be inclusive and bring everybody under the same big blue tent, as you said, and bring everybody under the same banner. The allegations of a backroom deal, I think are a little, well, I find them kind of funny because that's just not something that's ever happened. I don't know of any campaigns that are making backroom deals. I think that's a pretty good conspiracy theory, though.
Okay, Ari, it was so good to talk to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Okay, folks, so we are still continuing to debate the leadership race of the Progressive Conservative Party. And online, we have PC Party supporter and activist and a Toronto-based lawyer, Mr. Nicholas. So, Nick, welcome to my show, Power Dilemmas.
Hi, thank you for having me, and happy International Women's Day to you, Sarah.
Happy International Women's Day. Of course, this show is focusing on both the issues today, and a happy International Women's Day to you too. So, Nick, why do you think the party is not extending the deadline to vote?
Well, I think the issue comes down to it being a constitutional prerogative. The party decided collectively when the leadership race was announced that there'd be a deadline, and the deadline was already extended for registration. The voting has not been extended, and I think it's two reasons. One, there's a constitutional prerogative for it to end on March the 10th, and two, we should note that we're less than 90 days away from the general election on June the 8th. And I think it would do the party a disservice to extend the voting and selecting the new leader, because what needs to happen, in my opinion, is that the party needs to be united to beat the Liberals. And having a leadership going on while we're in campaign mode to beat the Liberals is not uniting the party.
I would agree with you that there are time compulsions. That is why the deadline has not been extended. But there are some leadership candidates who are not happy with this, and they are alleging that it is not very democratic for the members that they cannot vote in this leadership race. What is your take on that?
Well, again, I go back to the rules that were set out in advance of the leadership race, and there are some 198,000 party members. Not all of those party members would have received their notification with their PIN to vote. I get it. This was all done very quickly, and I agree that perhaps it's not the most effective way of doing things, but I also think that the party's done a good job in putting this thing together in such a short period of time. The number of people who have voted already, the last time I've been updated on this, has been more than 44,000 members, which far surpasses...
I was about to ask you that question. How many voters have voted?
Yeah, the far surpasses the number of voters in previous leadership races. In fact, the one leadership race where this party was, in fact, in government, didn't even have that many party members who have already voted in the leadership. So on the issue of democracy, I agree that some might think that it's not democratic because everyone doesn't have an opportunity to vote. But you see, the election day was set in advance. Here's the difficulty and the challenge, is the process of sending out the mail to everyone was something which was difficult to do from the beginning. Had it been a different process, then perhaps more people would have been able to participate. But I do think that as a percentage-wise of party members, the number of people who have voted is high, and I think that we cannot blame the party, and we cannot say that democracy was stifled in this particular circumstance.
So, Nick, every poll is saying that it's a fight between Doug Ford and Christine Elliott. What is your take on it? Is it true?
I think it's going to be a close race. I think both camps would have each other believe that they're in the lead based on the polling that they're doing within their own campaigns. I think there's a lot of excitement for the race, and the excitement actually is very good because it's gotten the party members fired up. It's gotten people talking about the party. It's gotten everyone who would otherwise just kind of just skim through the media and not really focus on there being an election coming in June. Everyone's excited, in my opinion. I think that whoever the leader is going to be, they've got some work cut out ahead of them to unite the party. But at this point, I think we've got a party that's fired up and ready to win in June.
So in your opinion, Nick, who is that uniting force who's going to bring all kinds of progressive conservatives under one big blue tent?
So that's interesting because I think it's the person who is most likely to agree on policy. And what's very important is the party put together through the grassroots a very well thought out and costed platform in the People's Guarantee. And I believe that the People's Guarantee is the right platform to beat the Liberals in June. My assessment of the situation is that between the two frontrunners in the race, you mentioned Doug Ford and Christine Elliott, I would lean more towards Christine Elliott being the candidate who is more true to the People's Guarantee.
Okay. Okay. So if, like, the question then comes that if People's Guarantee is going to be there for sure, then Kathleen Wayne should be scared that she's going to be ousted in June 7 election.
Absolutely. I think that the Liberals are already placing attack ads on the front runners in this progressive conservative leadership race. You've seen the Liberals already, even on social media, attacking Christine Elliott on her policies. You've seen the Liberals attacking Doug Ford. Both, I would submit to you, are having the Liberals run scared. What the trick in all of this is, I think, and not necessarily a trick, but what the best strategy for the party is to stick to a platform that has been well thought out and costed prior to the leadership race. And I think what's bit the party in the bum, so to speak, in the past, has been making up policy on the fly. And we saw that in the last election with Tim Hudak. And that election was the Conservative Party election to win. We lost that election because of some poor advice that was given in the last stages of the campaign with the 100,000 jobs that were going to be eliminated. We also saw the same thing when John Tory was running for leader with the faith-based school funding. Again, last-minute policy. These are the types of things that make us lose an election which is ours to win. And that's why I truly believe that whoever the leader that will be elected this Saturday should be very cautious about making up policy on the fly.
So when you mention a people's guarantee, it does bring PC supporters, PC activists down memory lane to the era of Patrick Brown. What is your take on it? What are you thinking right now? Like what kind of romance Patrick Brown?
What's happened to Patrick?
Yep.
I mean, I think. I should full disclosure. I'm a good friend of Patrick's. I've known him for 25 years. I think what's happened to him is absolutely terrible. I think the fact that he was not given the opportunity to have due process back in January of this year, January 24th. Everything that I've seen as to what happened in this circumstance raises a lot of red flags. The fact that he was tried and convicted in the media is a very terrible thing for our democracy, and I think it's something that needs to be looked at moving forward. I believe that Patrick is still going to be fighting for his name to be cleared. I think that once the truth comes out, people will realize that what happened to him was a complete travesty of justice.
So moving forward, Nick, we are seeing a triumph of the Progressive Conservative Party June the 7th. What should the Liberals be feeling at that time?
I think the Liberals will say anything, do anything, promise anything to get elected. And we see that just recently with some new policies that the Liberals are trying to implement that, if I look at them objectively, these policies are a way of buying votes in their favor. I see that the Liberal Party keeps going down the wrong road of putting us further and further in debt. You know, as a new father, I feel for the next generation. You know, my young child who's going to be inheriting all of this debt is not going to have the same opportunities that I had growing up, and is not going to have the same abilities to succeed in a competitive Ontario. I think that the Liberals have done a disservice, not just to the current generation, but to the future generations of people of this province.
So, Nick, have you voted so far?
Yes, I have. Very proud to have cast my vote yesterday. I registered and received my ballot within 2 days, and very proud moment. Took a screenshot of it, and I think this is a moment in history that we can all be proud of in electing the new leader and moving forward.
Wonderful. So good to have you, Nick, at my show. And this was a PC Party supporter and Toronto-based lawyer, Nicholas. So the last date for the vote casting for the Progressive Conservative leadership is March the 9th. The convention is on Saturday, where they're going to announce the results that who won the leadership race. Keep watching Power Dilemmas with Sarah Bokhari, and a very happy International Women's Day to you all. Ciao.